Lesson number 92 is about estimating roots. Now, our first question says, between which two consecutive integers is the square root of 71? Now, the square root of 71, well, that's not a perfect square because it doesn't have a whole number answer. But we can find out between which two consecutive integers or whole numbers that it would be between. The way we're going to do that is by starting with the pattern. We're going to look at things that we know. Let's say a smaller number, the square root of 25. The square root of 25 is 5, because 5 times 5 is 25. Next one we know is the square root of 36. That's 6. Then we have the square root of 49, which is 7. The next one we know is going to be the square root of 64, which is 8. Notice we're just going in a pattern, 5, 6, 7, 8. So our next one must be 9. We're going to have 9, well that would have to be the square root of 81. We could keep going if we wanted to. Square root of 100 is 10. But we don't have to go any further. The reason we don't have to go any further is because we're trying to figure out which two consecutive integers square root of 71 is between. Now the square root of 71 would have to fall right here, between the square root of 64 and the square root of 81. If we write it really small, the square root of 71, it would be somewhere in here. It looks like it's between 8 and 9, and it is somewhere, but it's going to be a decimal answer. So our question again says, between which two consecutive integers? Well, it must be between 8 and 9. So that's our answer. We can go ahead and box that, or we can write 8 and 9. And then we can move on to the next question. Maybe it's 8.4, maybe it's 8.3. It looks like it's a little bit closer to 64 than 81, and it is, so it should be a little less than 8.5. But the exact answer doesn't really matter, because all we're asked is between which two consecutive integers is this number. Making a list of things we know is a great way to solve a problem like this. Let's look at our next example. Between which two consecutive integers is the third root of 250? Now the third root of 250, well there's no whole number or integer that will multiply by itself 3 times to give us 250. But things we do know. Let's say things we do know. We know 2 times 2 times 2 is equal to 8. So we could say the third root of 8 is equal to 2. If we're trying to figure out what the 3 would be, 3 is going to be equal to the third root of 27. The 4 times 4 times 4, well, 4 times 4 times 4, that's equal to 64. So the third root of 64 is 4. Now we're getting into bigger numbers. Let's use a different color. If we had 5 times 5 times 5, 5 times 5 is 25, and 5 quarters would be 125. Whenever you have 25, thinking about quarters is a great way to work with that. So, the third root of 125, that's equal to 5. Now let's figure out what the 6 would give us. 6 times 6 times 6. Well, 6 times 6 is 36. And if we had 36 times 6, we could figure out what we're going to get. Let's work it over here. 6 times 6, that's 36. 6 times 3 is 18, plus 3 more is 21. We get 216. So the third root of 216 is going to equal 6. Let's figure out 7. We figure out 7, we'll work that with a different color. Let's use this one. 7 times 7 times 7. Well, 7 times 7 is 49, so this is going to be equal to 49 times 7. Let's work that on the side. 9 times 7 is 63. 7 times 4 is 28, plus 6 more gives us 34. So we get 343. So, the third root of 343, that's equal to 7. Now, we should stop here, because we need to think about our original question. Our original question was asking us for which two consecutive integers, consecutive just means in a row, is the third root of 250. Well, the third root of 250 is between 216 and 243, so our answer must be between 6 and 7. So instead of boxing it just like this, we need to write 6 and 7, so we can write 6 and 7. We can use the symbol or the word end, A-N-D, and we've got our answer. We don't need a decimal because it just asks us between which two consecutive integers is the third root of 250. And consecutive, in your notes, please make a note of it, just means in a row. So 6 and 7 are in a row, 9 and 10 would be in a row, -4 and -3 would be in a row. Lesson practice will be on page 289. Make sure you've got your notes complete, and I'll see you during our next class.